In Iran, we can speak now to a Swedish-Iranian historian and political analyst, Dr. Rouzbeh Parsi. Thanks so much for your time. Can I start simply by asking you for your reaction to the nomination of Mojtaba Khamenei as supreme leader? I mean, what does it mean for Iran, first and foremost?
Well, I was a bit surprised. His name has been floating for some time, but in a sense, you can say his strength is also his weakness. He was in the office of his father, working there, but there are, as far as I know, no interviews with him. Very little is known about his own opinions. And he's junior when it comes to the theological side of things, and now he's being called an Ayatollah. But of course, for the system, and especially for those who want to keep a hard line of Ali Khamenei, it's particularly important and good, so to speak, to have someone with the same name showing a succession that the Americans and the Israelis cannot break nor influence.
Do you think a lot of his nomination was about sending that message to the West, notably perhaps to Donald Trump, who clearly stated that, he would be the next target if he was nominated?
I think it plays a part. I think he was probably a strong contender. It's very difficult to know these things from the outside. But I think the war and the way it has been conducted probably strengthened his cards and made it difficult for those who had other candidates in mind to kind of voice and stand their ground.
Because, they even mentioned the word dynasty when they were naming Khamenei's son to take over. And, coming from a country like Iran, and the revolution to break the hierarchy after the Shah, how do you think this decision will go down for the average Iranian? I mean, have we heard, what do you think the reaction even from reformist Iranians, former presidents, might be like?
Well, I mean, this is a mixed bag, if you will, because on the one hand, this is not surprising in the sense that all revolutions tend to replace what they destroyed with something very similar. That's where the word revolution comes from. It's from the French Revolution and the circular movement. So in that sense, going full dynasty is not necessarily surprising. There's also an element of this in Shia theology, where the notion of sacredness and the notion of charisma and leadership goes in succession within the family. So in that sense, there are some reasons why this would not be totally surprising. But in terms of legitimacy for everyone who is not convinced that this system is going down a good path or should even exist, this of course just strengthens their belief that this is a doomed and illegitimate system to begin with.
And what's the alternative available in Iran today?
Well, wars tend to compress things and deform things. So in that sense, I don't see at this point anyone, at least from within the system, being willing to voice some kind of alternative, at least not outwards for us to detect. It depends a bit now on how much of his father's son he's going to be and how strong his position is going to be. We have to remember that his father needed a decade or so to shore up his own credibility and his own ability to run this system. Now, Mojtaba comes with stronger cards in terms of his connections, but also weaker position in that he's going to be more dependent on those groups, most likely the Revolutionary Guards. So all of that plays a role into what kind of conversation is taking place inside the system. But I think for the moment, they're all united in that they see an existential threat in the Israeli and American war, and that this is something they need to deal with first.
Indeed. Also, one of the questions we ask ourselves in this current war that was started by Israel and the US is the impact it's having on Gulf states. I mean, we're hearing all the Gulf states saying that Iran will be the biggest loser, that their trust is failing. How do you see that relationship?
Well, strategically, I think they're right, because basically what Iran is doing is burning a lot of bridges that are going to be very difficult to rebuild with these countries. And these are bridges that it cannot do without because these are the neighbors. But tactically, you could also argue that what they've been doing has had the intended effect in terms of international politics, not regional politics. Basically, what Iran has done is increase the pressure on the Americans that the whole global system that the Americans, in a sense, underwrite is now coming, going into pieces and shreds because the Iranians are able to influence what is happening and making it very difficult for the Americans to contain this conflict to just one country, Iran, and the rest of the world would go about their business. That is not the way things are going. And the fact that the Americans don't seem to have a clear strategy of what they want with this war just makes it easier for the Iranians to, in a sense, play this game.